Yo, what's good, guys? We are back at it, doing another tier list on the show. This time we are on to our infielders. So, as you can notice, no Inside the Mind this weekend, trying to capitalize on the hype of the new set and get these tier list video out for you guys so that you can decide which of these cards to start grinding for, who makes the team, who doesn't. So, if this does help you build your lineup or is entertaining in some fashion for you guys, I would urge you to like and subscribe if you have not already. And let's get into this. So, Adam Dunn, I like his swing. I like his attributes. Absolutely mashes. Best at first base, but, his real best position would be DH, but I'm not necessarily counting DH for the infield. They kind of get their own slot, usually, in the best lineups video. Adley looks good. Basically a copy and paste of his collection reward card, so easily challenges for the best catcher in the game right off rip. This Austin Riley is not really up to snuff with the collection card that he got, but it is decent enough. I think it's B tier just because it's hard to rank cards right now. Everybody's 99. Everybody has crazy stats. You're really splitting hairs when you're picking, A from S to B, whatnot. You're really splitting hairs. Bobby Witt, I like him. I think he makes the durability and the shortstop team, and he looks pretty gross on both of them. But without it, I think he's just fine. Nothing to write home about. Bo Bichette, probably the de facto best shortstop right now. But he's so bad on defense that I could see arguments for other people with shortstop being such a premium defense position. Plus, I don't really love his swing too much, but some people do. This B-Crawl is a solid card if you're still running him, as long as it's at third base or second base. Doesn't really profile as a true shortstop because he's just a little bit too slow. Bryson Stott, just kind of mid. Low contact against one side. More or less low power against both. Don't really love him. Cal Raleigh, a very solid catcher that dropped. Probably is going to go a lot under the radar for most people. The thing is, he can't be challenging for the best catcher in the game when he's not even the best switch hitting catcher in the game. So I think he's fine. I think for his value, he's really good, but definitely not one of the top tier options. Delgado, his time may have come and passed. If you really like him, if you enjoy his swing, and it's always funny that he looks exactly like Kanye in game, and he has a very nice bat flip that is fun to see when he pimps home runs. But stats wise, lacks a little bit of power against lefties. Can't play catcher. You probably want to avoid that with how awful he is on defense. But in general, I think he's fine. I think if you're running him and you really like him, you can argue S tier all day. Santana lacks some of the contact I would say he needs to be in S tier. Overall, pretty good. One of the better options for switch hitting first baseman. Probably not the best switch hitting catcher anymore because of Adley. But if you are still running the durability team, easily S for Santana. CJ Abrams, this card sucks. I would rather have Lane Thomas get it. Just not a good card. You're not going to see anybody running that. Bellinger, statistically, might be the best card in the game, next to the new Ronald Acuna and that Chase Pack Trout. He is gross. I think he's probably the best first baseman in the game, so Delgado can't really sneak up to S tier because I don't think it's really arguable that Bellinger is better than him. This Bellinger is so good, it gives me flashbacks to the 2019 Finest Bellinger, which is by far the best card I've ever used in the show. And he gives me flashbacks to that card. He is absolutely nuts. Seager, really solid. Basically, everything got slightly upgraded over the collection reward one, but he lost a little bit of power against lefties. That's really it. Me personally, I want to throw out an idea for what I would have liked to have seen, right, for the World Series MVP. I would rather have a 125 across the board Seager with probably 60 speed, so you could at least start to think to play him at shortstop. Maybe if you've done maybe they come out with the World Series program today, and if you've done that and all the other postseason things, you can lock them in for kind of a Topps Now collection for a 99 Corey Seager that's basically 125 everything. I would much prefer that to a slight upgrade over the core one that you're not really going to notice too much. I think he's fine. I think he's pretty great at third base and decent enough at second, but I think his real value comes at third base. Dansby, up there with Bo. Obviously much better defensively than what Bo is because of the speed and whatnot. Has a better swing than Bo. Just doesn't really have the stats that Bo has. and shortstop is a pretty weak position right now. David Wright looks great. I don't usually like David Wright's swing. For me, it's very Jeter-ish, and I don't really like either of their swings. And this David Wright cannot play any defense. So that's why he's where he is. Speaking of Jeter, I think he's still a solid option at this point. Lacks a little bit of power. Has a lot of the other stuff. For me, he played not the best defense at short for some reason. He's just one of those cards where it just didn't really make sense. I think he's fine. Hopefully we'll get one with a little more power soon. And he can be a top-end option still. Eddie Murray just lacks contact and has a very divisive swing. A lot of people don't like it. Me, every time I've ever used Eddie Murray, I absolutely rake with him. But I can see why some people don't like his swing. Julian, pretty mid. Can't touch lefties at all. Everybody liked the WBC one at the start of the year. Has the same swing and, a lot of the same attributes. Hits righties very well. Just can't touch lefties. Ellie, maybe a bit controversial. Some people think controversial. I think he still has here. Still has the same swing. Still is a switch-hitting shortstop, which is a hard thing to find. And it's even harder to find like a 6'6" giant that snags every diving ground ball. He is absolutely gross. If you can get him on the shortstop team, he's almost the collection tier 1. But he doesn't make durability anymore. If this card made durability, it would be over. But I think he looks really good, especially if you put some parallels on him. Some people are so low on this card, I don't understand it. Because if you put some parallels on him, if you give him the shortstop boost, he's going to be hitting 115, 120 against lefties. And the power is basically the exact same as the chase card pack. Chase card one. The clutch isn't awesome, but again, you factor in the shortstop boost. Still the best defender in the game at shortstop. Easily S tier for me. I think he's the best value out of all these. Dansby's going to be probably 400K since he's a World Series reward. Seager is an insane grind and probably shouldn't be played at short anyway. And Bo is a collection reward that I would imagine most people will get one collection reward, maybe not multiple. So, Ernie, best spot for him is first base. His swing's, middle of the pack. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Definitely would not play him at shortstop. He's a little bit slow. Longo, I need to start speeding this up. It's dragging out a little bit. Just lacks the all-around stats. He's a little bit of a do-everything third baseman, and not really what you're looking for at this point. I think Tatis is probably top of A. Statistically, he's somewhat good, but even if you put parallels on him and, give him a captain boost, he still doesn't hit lefties extremely well. And he's fine, but the swing just sucks, man. If you're somebody that for some reason, maybe it's because you play on All-Star, I don't know. Maybe you don't see a lot of outlier guys. Maybe Tatis is S tier for you, but I don't see it at all. Speaking of swings that suck, I tried this dude's Future Star earlier in the year. Did not do well with it. And he's just never going to compete with some of these other catchers that came out. Lindor, with the shortstop boost, probably S tier without it, just middle of A. Really going to struggle contact-wise and power-wise against lefties. Absolutely mashes righties and doesn't really have the arm to play shortstop. I would keep him away from shortstop. I think he profiles more as a second baseman or maybe even a third base of that J-Ram type. That's where I would put him at. Freddie, for some people, will probably be S tier. For me, he lacks a little bit of power. Having the inverse power where he hits lefties harder is nice, especially the same hand in this matchup. So I can just kind of tell he's going to get a alive lefty-lefty. But a lot of people always like Freddie, and he should play well, has a ton of quirks. I think he's a top-ish option at first base. He's just not going to mess with Bellinger. Gary Carter, just super-duper mid, super overpriced card. Would not touch him. Gary, you could argue S tier. I think a lot of people aren't going to like his swing, and he can't play a lick of defense, but he absolutely mashes the baseball, and I believe he makes the shortstop team, actually, so that's interesting. George Brett, one of the better third basemen, has an awesome swing, plays good enough defense, and he's not the collection reward one from last year, right? Even if you add 5 parallels to this card, he's not the collection reward one from last year. But he is still very, very, very good. Decent enough power numbers, decent enough fielding. We'll see if he actually plays like that because the collection one last year sucked fielding. But he's a good card, and if you're doing your team affinity anyway, I think he's a good option, an awesome free option. Glaber, S tier as a second baseman. As a shortstop, I'll have to look at his speed, get a little refresher on it. As a second baseman, you're not going to find many second basemen that hit this well. It's crazy. He's very, very good. Actually a decent fielder, and he's pretty slow, so I would not touch him at shortstop. But as a second baseman, he is in that conversation for the best second baseman in the game. While I am on that track, I need to add somebody I missed because he's a secondary position. Mookie is probably the other guy that has an argument for the best second baseman in the game. Absolutely gross. If you haven't got that Mookie, I would go back and get him. Ha-Seong Kim plays awesome defense, and I don't really mind his swing, but, just doesn't hit at an elite level necessarily. Isaac Paredes, absolutely hate his swing. I hate his swing. He mashes baseball stats-wise. Absolutely hate his swing. Have not been able to use one of his cards all year. The Burger Man, Danny Burgers, reincarnated. I like him. All he's going to do is mash stingers for you. I don't hate his swing. I don't love his swing. I think he's fine. For the value, I think he's pretty decent. Let's see. Jay Cronenworth, this is a free card that's just not very good. Yes, he's a 99. Does that mean he's good? No. Pena, very good all-around shortstop. Does a little bit of everything. I think I would rather have pretty much everybody above him over him. But he is still decent. Jimmy Fox, a challenger for the best catcher in the game. If you don't care about having a switch hitter, if you don't care about your defense, he probably will hit better than Adley. But he doesn't bring that defense that Adley does. J-Raw, I can't put him S tier just because of the power numbers not being the greatest, but he is a switch hitter. He is extremely fast, and he plays awesome defense, especially for a midget. He's not going to get those Ellie super dives where he goes halfway across the field. So Ellie is still by far the best defensive shortstop. But you can see pretty good clutch for him. Great contact numbers and just lacks a little bit of power. He's going to hit a couple to the warning track here and there. Johnny Bench, just such a mid card. Really, basically no reason to use him. I think I'd rather have Gary Carter. I'd rather have Jonah Heim. And I don't really like Jonah Heim. He's kind of just has 100 for everything hitting wise. Yes, he is a switch hitter, but his defense, what good is a defensive catcher? This Lawler card looks pretty nasty. I liked his stats when I looked at him. I have not used him personally, so I'm not sure what his swing looks like. But you got max against one side, average against one, and then good enough power. And he fields and runs the bases very well. So unless he has just the world's worst swing, I think he's a very solid option to run at shortstop. Altuve, this card kind of sucks. I really like his swing, and I like his quirks, and he hits very good for me. The problem is the power against lefties is a little bit low, but you can live with it. And the clutch is max, but he is terrible at second base. He is going to make so many errors at second base. He's going to get bad animations on double play balls. He just kind of sucks in the field, and it brings him down from S tier. If this guy had high gold fielding, probably maybe talking about S tier card, maybe competing for the best second baseman in the game. With the defense the way it is, I think he's probably a DH, to be honest, which really sucks. This J-Ram card, nothing compared to the collection one that we got last season, or 2 seasons ago. Last season, I'm not sure. Yeah, it was 2 seasons ago. Even at a max parallel level, this is what you're looking like. He's nowhere close to the one we already got. Absolutely is dreadful against righties. You can argue for the small strike zone and the great swing, but he is still a A-tier player. But I cannot go higher than that. This Josh Bell, a very good switch hitting first baseman, but I've never really been the biggest Josh Bell fan, and I feel like there's team affinity ones that you can get that are as good. I'll bump him up, but I don't think he's, what he's hyped out to be. Real Muto sucks. Has an awesome swing, but his stats are very mid. And cue the comments about him having 94 speed or whatever he has. Who cares? It's your catcher. Speed's the most overrated thing in this game. The only people on the field that need speed really is your outfielders, in particular your center field and your shortstop. And then sometimes second base helps with speed. But why do we care about a catcher having speed when he can't hit a lick? I don't know. I like his swing a lot, but there is a basically JT Real Muto 2.0 on this list that I like more than him. Marte, S tier. I think he's kind of shown it all year that he's S tier. Has a great swing, has a switch hitting swing. The problem with this one is they nuked his power against righties, I'm pretty sure, which sucks. But he got a power versus lefties boost, I think. No, he got power versus righties boost. They brought his power against lefties down by a lot. But he's always going to have the biggest PCI possible. Max contact against both, max clutch against both, and very good fielding if you play him at second base. The problem is the speed. They absolutely nuked his speed. Usually I like my second baseman to have like at least 80 speed to get the slow rollers and make a diving play and throw the runner out. But I think he's fine. I think he's S tier. If you've liked other Marte cards, you're going to like this one. It's just that power stroke might not be there. Manny, fine. I mean, he's a fine third baseman. He's statted well all around, plays good defense, has a good enough swing, in my opinion. I don't love it, but it's good enough. Marcelo, S tier. I think he's probably better than all of these shortstops, excluding Ellie, but he is obviously a pretty rare card. Obviously, the flashback thing will help a lot, but you're looking at close to max contact and, slightly below to average power, with awesome fielding and decent enough speed. I like him. Basically kind of like a left-handed Cal Ripken at shortstop. Except I really like his swing. I've used him a couple times. For me, I think he's the best shortstop in the game. I don't think it's going to last for too much longer, but I like him. This Simeon card, extremely overpriced, but if you liked the Boss Simeon that we got, you're going to love this one. He got some upgrades in some areas and some downgrades in some others. I know he got faster. He's very quick. If you put him on the shortstop team, probably S tier. Without it, kind of just mid. This Mark McGwire, the stats play. If you can use his swing, if you don't absolutely hate his swing, if it doesn't make you want to gag, I think he's decent enough, but I'm not going to put him S tier with that swing. This McGwire, really no point in going out and getting this McGwire at this point. His swing is awful. And the contact numbers are below where you would want at this point. Really no point in going out and getting him. Is he realistically an F tier card? Probably not. But, yeah, no, there's no point in getting him. Carpenter, I want to put in S tier. I think this card is absolutely disgusting. I am a huge fan of this card. He is unbelievable for me. But you can see he lacks in power against lefties, and he is a pretty awful fielder. I think his best value is at second baseman because you don't get too many second basemen that hit for nukes. But he is one of those. He can also play third, I believe, and maybe even first. I'm not too sure, but I love him at second. Matt Holliday is a fine option at first base if you want to play him there. Matt McLean, decent enough at shortstop. Doesn't do everything well. I believe he's bad against one side of the plate. You can see 110, 97 against righties. That is kind of tough, but he is very fast and is a great fielder. So I think he sneaks in that bottom of A tier. Very good option to play shortstop at this point. Miggy, I've been getting torched from this card. I think if you want a right-handed first baseman, it's him and Jimmy Fox for 1A, 1B at the moment. Just not really my favorite card in the world. Moustakas, just throw him in here as like a little budget option. I think as a second baseman, as a third baseman, I believe are the only two spots he can play. He might can play first. He's a good budget option. He's like 10K. You can go get him easily. So I figured I'd include him. Napoli, I do not like his swing this year, but he just blasts baseballs. When you do get around on it, it can be hard. You do get jammed a lot with him. He's got a slow swing. But I like him a lot. Stat-wise, I think he hits great. I think he brings one of the best bats of a catcher in the game, and I think he can hold his own at first base also. Schmitty, he's fine. Obviously, Uh, probably below average contact, slightly above average power. Good clutch, good fielding, good speed. Just a swing that you don't ever really love. I think he's fine. If you want to argue A tier, you can. He's not very expensive. If you need a budget option at third base, he is pretty gross for that. Zunino, I like as a catcher. Very similar to Napoli, except plays better defense. I believe he's a little slower. I've used him in the event so far. I used him against CPU. Really like him. NC Boomstick, in the debate for right-handed first baseman, I would say. I'll have to see stats-wise. So I think his contact's a little lackluster. But the clutch is there, and the fielding's honestly not bad on him. So if you want to play this card at first base, if for some reason you have that card, I like him. I just don't like him more than Jimmy Fox, and I don't like him more than Miggy. Castellanos, this is a very good all-around card. He's got more power than I thought he would, obviously. Struggles a little bit contact-wise against righties, but very good power, very good clutch, and he's not a complete defensive liability. If he was a little better on defense and you could afford to play him at third base, I think he would be a little higher. Arenado probably challenges for the title of one of the best third basemen you can be running right now. I like him a lot. I think he's super solid. It's just a lot of people are hit or miss on his swing, and he can clog up the bases. Like I said, speed is not a very important attribute in the show, but when you are so below average in speed, like guys with David Ortiz or Jorge Posada or Nolan Ryan, you kind of notice it. They do clog the bases and keep you from getting extra bases a lot of the time. So, Nolan Gorman, I like this card as a second baseman. He is basically Matt Carpenter. I think I like Matt Carpenter's swing a little more, but Gorman's probably statted a little bit better. He's been a beast for me so far. You can see the power's maxed. Just not the best fielder ever. A little bit slow to be at second base. Maybe at third he has a little more value. I'm not too sure. O'Neal Cruz, I would not put in the top shortstops. I think stat-wise he probably is. But that swing is going to be really, really, really rough lefty-lefty. If you don't struggle lefty-lefty, he's probably, S tier. Obviously, the fielding can get better. The reaction's kind of a red flag for me, but with his height, he can probably dive on balls that he doesn't get the best jump for. I like him, just not as much as these guys in the S tier. Ozzy. So I'm sure a bunch of people have, been thinking of this. Very hype card when he came out. I think for what he costs, he's a, mid card. But I think stats-wise, he looks pretty gross overall. I would like a little bit more speed, maybe like 85 speed, so you can parallel him, get him up to 90. He's probably S tier. I know he has a great swing. I know the stats are a little bit underwhelming, but you put some parallels on him. And I do like him a lot as a second baseman. It's between him, Glaber, and Mookie probably for the best second baseman, so I'll actually drop Marte at this point, because if you want to switch hitting second baseman, you should probably go for Ozzy. Peter, very good power hitting right-handed first baseman. A lot of people usually like his swing a lot. The problem is the contact just isn't really there. I think he makes a durability team, which would make him absolutely gross, but, Devers. This Devers, I'm not sure. I'm not seeing anybody else I would consider better at third base. I think as a true third baseman, he has an argument for the best third baseman, but I'd rather play like Corey Seager there. Or maybe like Glaber or somebody like that is probably who I'd rather play at third base. But I think Devers looks good. He is not as good as that World Series reward one, but he is close, and he obviously has the same swing. Royce Lewis, I think, is a top-tier option, especially at third base, which is his primary, so that's a dub. I like his swing a lot. I think he's probably S tier. I think if you want a right-handed third baseman, it's between him and Nolan. I think they're both statted very well. Royce, I believe, does make the shortstop and durability team, so that's a plus in his favor. This Tony Clark, basically Eddie Murray, probably will have a more universally liked swing than Eddie Murray, but he is not, the greatest. Trey Turner, I want to put this card in S tier, and I'll have to really dive into the numbers a little bit here. So, below average against lefties contact-wise, above average against righties, above average power, below about average power. So the clutch isn't great, the fielding isn't great, and the speed is obviously a straight runner. He's going to be fast. I think he's A tier. If you want to use him, you can make the card work. It's just meh, You were hoping for a little bit more. You were hoping maybe he'd make the durability team or something. If you put him on the shortstop team, I think he's undoubtedly an S tier candidate. But without it, he's fine. Not really messing with a lot of these other guys. Story as a second baseman is very good, especially on the shortstop team. But I don't think he's messing with the likes of Glaber, Ozzy, or Mookie. Troy Gloss, just an insane budget option. A lot of people don't like his swing. I've always liked his swing. Look at the stats. Insane budget option. Doesn't play the greatest third base defensively, but he's just gross. I think Vlad is kind of close in that right-handed first baseman conversation with Miggy and Fox. I think a lot of people will probably like this Vlad more than Fox. So for that reason, I'll put him at S tier. I think if you, the general person, are looking for a right-handed power bat at first base, most people will probably find more success with Vlad Guerrero. I like Fox more, but I think a lot of people, the debate will come down between Vlad and Miggy. William, can't not put him S tier with the way he's statted. I believe his swing's decent. I know his brother's is. The stats are crazy. But the problem is he is a right-handed catcher when there's a switch-hitting catcher that is just as good, if not better. So I think he's got the debate for one of the better catchers, but he is not insane. Stargell, great budget card. Obviously, he's a pennant chase card or whatever it's called. So he's like 10K. I think for 10K, you don't get a lot better than that. Will Smith, this is what I was alluding to when I said, a better JT Realmuto. They basically have the exact same swing. Will Smith's just a much better hitter, has similar fielding, and is not slow. He's not, 90 speed as a catcher, but he is not slow. I think he's, he has better attributes than what Realmuto has for a 9-9. Adames, good low budget option. Does a lot of everything well. As a shortstop, he's a little bit slow, so it's going to hurt his defense. Xander, very good hitting option. Struggles in the field, even with the gold shield. I've seen him get some absolutely garbage animations. And the power is not really there, right? Doesn't hit for a lot of power. Similar to Ketel Marte in that regard. I kind of want to drop him, but I don't think he's in this tier of just kind of like budget and okay cards. And then Yaz could have an argument for S tier, but I think he's closer to like a Cal Raleigh than to a Adley. I think his stats look very good. He is one of those ungodly slow players, though, that is going to kill your base running. 23 is wild. He's going to hit a lot of singles off the wall, and it's just going to be the way it is. But great defensively, good enough clutch. And then he's basically maxed against righties, and he's got max power and slightly below average contact against lefties, I would say. I think he's gross. I think he's a good card and definitely worth a mention. And yeah, guys, I mean, that's pretty much it for the infield tier list. I think there's somebody on the tip of my tongue that I know I missed that has a secondary position that is an infield position where they're very good at. But for the life of me, just can't remember where or who it was. But that is our tier list. So I'm going to save this. I will put the link in the description that has been requested. So I will be doing that from now on, I guess. Just, watch the videos a little bit to have, know the reason why they're in there. Don't just, skim through the tier list. But that's going to be it, guys. Till next time, this has been the infield ranking. Till next time, which will be the outfield ranking, I'm out. Peace.